700 years into the future, mankind will leave our planet, leaving Earth's cleanup in the hands of one incredible machine.
I'm Charles Solomon from Amazon.com, and your name is?
Wally.
Why don't we start with the napkin story and Wally's origins back then?
The lunch, the infamous lunch. We rattled a bunch of half-baked things around. One of them, things that stuck in the ether for a short while, was this sentence of, what if everybody left Earth and somebody forgot to turn the last robot off and it just kept doing its job forever? And I remember the conversation with Pete and I returning from that lunch and saying, you know, it should be like R2-D2 the movie. It should be that it speaks the way it was built, and I could follow a whole character like that through a movie. I would love to see a movie like that. And then the very next sentence was, nobody would ever let us do that.
When Andrew Stanton first described the movie to me, he did use the phrase R2-D2 the movie. And he meant that as a shorthand way of saying, I want to feature a robot character that's got a whole personality attached to it, and he's got to have a special voice. So I didn't set out to imitate R2 directly. We needed to give him the ability to actually vocalize some sounds. So that's what distinguished him quite a bit from R2-D2.
One of the things that impressed me the most about Wall-E, and we've talked about this before, is your use of silence. Versus the kind of talk fests that we get so often in animated films these days.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about silence and your thoughts on it?
Well, I mean, I'd like to think that we have tried in all of our films to use the Chuck Jones adage of, if the sound falls away, the film should still be clear, and that you can still follow what's going on. But I was never interested in making it literally silent. Everything would speak based on how it was built, where it was from. So if it was a high-tech machine, it spoke with high-tech electronic language. If it was low-tech machinery, it would speak low-tech. And that was really where the approach came from. That's where somebody like Burtt was key.
I feel that one of the most important elements in the orchestration of sound in a movie is silence. It's not something I object to, because when you have silence, then you have contrast and you have pauses.
One of the things that impressed me most about the film was the animation of his hands that was so extraordinarily sensitive.
Thank you.
And I wondered if you could talk about that. And I mean, they're basically spades, but they feel almost balletic at points.
Hand poses to me are very important, and secondary to the eyes and the head and shoulders, they're wonderful ways of communicating emotion. Now, for Wall-E himself, his pose mainly is like this. And when you see him approaching Eve, he has this kind of unsure attitude, the way he acts, and having these, like, his mittens. You see his hands kind of curved just a little bit like this when when he is unsure. When he's a robot, when he is just function, they are straight. They are a tool. They're a trowel. They scoop in trash. They stab the trash cubes, and they soften when he's around Eve.
We were really specific on the design of them, that they didn't come across like fingers, that they came across like you had trowels for your hands, and that the thumbs could even recede and meld with the palms, so that at times, if we wanted them to literally be spades, so that we could always in a weird way, and I don't mean this emotionally, but just visually, dehumanize Wall-E, so that you always saw him as a machine just striving to find life and discover what life is about. He wasn't given life even in his form.
Doing a short film involving the same characters
a
bit
pressure.
Daunting as a task.
Yes, I felt like we weren't cheapening the feature because we were playing within the universe respectfully. Now the tone of the short is maybe a little bit jokier, a little bit more comedic than the wistful or the emotional Wall-E feature. It was very important to me that it share not just some of the assets, but also the quality, but also be appropriate. Like you could put it back into the movie, and it would slow down the pace, but it would still be like an extension of the film.
The critics treated the film as something just short of divine revelation. And while Pixar, I don't know, has gotten so few bad reviews as to be negligible, were you surprised at just how favorable the reaction was?
We felt that it was something special and that it was something that was breaking the mold of what you typically see on the screen, and that's why it was made. This was something I felt I wasn't seeing that I wanted to see. So in that sense, I felt very good about it, but I was surprised that it would be accepted as that by so many people, or recognized as that. I assumed it, because I see so many films that move me and I think are amazing, and they end up in some small art house film, and then nobody sees them. So it's not like I don't think things like this exist. So what I was not prepared for was that the populace and that the more popular critics would all see it as that. That was really a real honor.
We know you like to watch movies on the old VHS technology. Have you seen any movies on Blu-ray? Well, thank you, Wally. It was a pleasure to meet you. And say hello to the folks on the internet.